So hey everybody, it's been well over a year since I posted a video, but I had a request from somebody to do another video on what the yearly maintenance cost was for my Mercedes C-Class. So it's a Tuesday morning and the mood has struck me, so I figured I'll give you guys an update, let everybody know out there what it cost this past year to maintain this car. Okay, so some of the stuff that I ended up doing this year, and I didn't really film this. I actually have a montage, I guess, of a couple things that I just haven't bothered to post. Maybe we'll get into some of that here in a bit, but okay, well first, why don't I just go over a brief overview of the stuff that I did this past year. So, I finally decided to replace my belt tensioner and idler pulleys. I was going to do a separate video on this. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Like I say, I haven't posted a video in over a year now. There are reasons for that. So I did the belt tensioner and idler pulleys, and I also made sure that I got a Gatorback Poly V belt. We did an oil change, and I decided to replace my front and rear flex discs on the drive line. And I also did the rear transmission mount while I was there and had that stuff unhooked anyway. And I also did the engine intake air filter, which I had already bought previously, but I finally just changed it, so I threw the cost of that into this whole thing. So, let's do a breakdown of costs here. So first off, the belt tensioner, 2 idler pulleys, and I also got a separate Gatorback Poly V belt. So the total for all of those parts came to $217.16. That's Canadian dollars. Now, ordinarily it wouldn't be this much if you just buy the Continental belt kit or whatever it is. But the place where I get my parts from, they had sort of a sale on. So I ended up getting a couple extra belts while I was buying stuff anyway, just because, I mean, the blowout cell was so cheap. So you'd be under $200 for sure if you were just buying the kit and doing this whole job yourself. Now, there were some unexpected things with doing the belts. Like, so the tensioner, it was sort of odd. The tensioner that I got, if I do another video on this, I'll go into more specifics, but basically the back of the tensioner where the shock absorber hooks on, that piece wasn't threaded, so I had to tap threads into that and whatnot. So, you know, if you didn't have a tap and die kit, I don't know, maybe that would be an extra expense for you. Just something to sort of be aware of, I guess. And like I say, if I do a specific video on that, I'll go in more depth on that. So anyway, a little over $200 for that, $217.16 for that. The oil change this time around cost $75.07. That's Canadian. That's for both the oil and the filter. And I put in a new gasket, and I got rid of that stupid magnetic drain plug I put in. I put the old drain plug in with a new gasket because the old one was leaking. So even though that I'd be very wary of those ones actually now, having done it for that. I've done it for motorcycles and stuff like that, those magnetic drain plugs, and they've always worked out well, but this one I got for the car, for whatever reason, whether the thread, like, it fits in but not quite snug enough, or the gasket on them is just bad, I don't know. I didn't want to mess around with it anymore, and I figure with the amount of oil that's in there and the filtering and stuff, you don't really need a magnetic drain plug. I mean, it's all aluminum block. I don't know that there's a whole lot of benefit to having it, so anyway, I got rid of that. Then flex discs. So I started having this issue where I'd get this slight ticking that I'd notice at low speeds. Or it'd be like this sort of ticking, sort of clunking sound, you know, right around like 20 kilometers an hour. You get like ting, dunk, 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 dunk type of thing, like my sound effects. It's exactly what it sounded like. So, I got underneath the car and started looking around, and the flex discs, it's not like they were broken or blown out or anything, but I sort of figured that they were pretty dry. It was nice weather, so I figured why not just get the parts and do all that. So anyway, the cost for the 2 flex discs plus the transmission mount and all the hardware to do that came to $277.78, and that's for the Febby flex discs, and Lemfreuder transmission mount. So something to sort of add on. It turns out that's not what the ticking was. The ticking was actually from the passenger side coil, the top hat mount. One of those bolts, I went through because it just dawned on me one day, and so I went out with a socket wrench and the Torx driver, and I just gave each one just a little bit, and there was one bolt I got about like maybe a 1/16 of a turn on, and after that the sound totally went away. So there was just one of those shock mount bolts for the top hat that had just sort of either backed off a little bit or loosened up in there, and I noticed the threads weren't overly good on that one. So anyway, yeah, that's what that ticking was. I didn't actually have to do those mounts, the flex discs or that rear mount. Well, the rear mount was actually getting in pretty bad shape. It was starting to crack and whatnot, so it was probably good that I did the transmission mount anyway. But the flex discs didn't have to be done, but there was a real difference after I did them. It was just way smoother. The old ones, they were just dried up and hard, so it would only have been a matter of time before they started splitting and stuff. So my thing with this car is that, you know, I want to be proactive with the maintenance, and, you know, I know of certain things that are coming up, and so I'm just going to start replacing stuff as I get the time and money to do so, just to sort of keep ahead, because otherwise you could end up in a very bad situation, end up having to spend a lot of money, right? And then, like I said, the other thing was the engine air filter. I changed that, and that was $20.93. They were the MAN filters. So, and that made a huge difference actually in the pickup of the car and the acceleration. I did not realize how dirty those old filters were. A year previous to when I changed this, I had taken a look at the air filters and I just sort of blew them out. It didn't seem like they were that dirty, but after putting the new ones in, I should have just changed it. So I think that's just going to be like a yearly thing. I mean, for the $20, $21 that it costs, I'm just going to change the engine air filters, because it just made a huge difference in the acceleration. I wasn't getting as much throttle hang when rev matching for downshifts and all that stuff. So that's definitely worthwhile doing. I'd recommend that anybody does that. Okay, so the total for all that stuff came to $590.87. So that's, you know, maintenance total for the year. There were some other parts that I bought though. So included with the flex discs and stuff like that, because I wasn't sure how that was all going to work out with the center bearing and this center carrier support there. So I actually got those parts, but I didn't end up using them. They're just in my parts box here, because it would have been so much extra work to try and take the exhaust out and the heat shielding and everything to get to that, and it seemed like the bearing and stuff was good from what I could see up in there, so I just left that for now. Just because I didn't have the time to have to deal with all that. So I do have those parts. If I were to include those, then we'd be up to $687.46, but like I said, I didn't do those. So we're under $600 for the year maintenance. I'm well happy with that. I think we've done really good. Okay, so the one other thing that I did end up picking up was the for the alternator, the contacts and the voltage regulator. I picked up those parts because I sort of know that that's going to be coming up. I ended up getting that for $85 Canadian, thereabouts. I didn't include that in any of these prices because, again, I haven't done that job yet, but I picked that up to at least have on hand, because these charging systems, it's sort of well known that, especially once you start getting near the 10-year mark, once you start getting closer to 200,000 kilometers on your vehicle, you're going to start having alternator charging issues, and most of the time you can remedy those by just replacing the contacts because they wear down, and that voltage regulator. So yeah, that's for 2018. Like I say, just under $600, $590.87 took care of the maintenance, and it wasn't even necessarily stuff that I had to do. All of it, but it was sort of being preemptive about things, because otherwise I probably would have been around $300 total for the maintenance for the vehicle for the year. Yeah, so no complaints there. Alright, so a couple other things to sort of take care of. I haven't made any videos in a while, mainly because any maintenance I've done on the car, I just didn't have time to mess around trying to film it and go through all that stuff. And quite honestly, I've sort of lost a little bit of inspiration for this channel, because the thing is that with my other business, with the electronics business and doing repairs and stuff like that, I just don't have time not only to be making videos, but to do all the back end stuff, the editing, and sort of put it together, even though my videos probably aren't as professional as a lot of the ones out there. You know, I just don't have time to deal with all that. And say this channel did take off, I don't know that I'd want to switch gears at this point to do automotive related stuff just 24/7. You know, cars are a hobby for me. I really enjoy them, and that's sort of where I'm at with it. I don't want to be spending a whole bunch more time on it, or getting to the point with it where I don't enjoy it, where it's not a hobby for me. And yeah, you know, I like driving cars, I like working on them, but only when I like to work on them. And beyond that, I don't think I want to have this turn into a full-time thing. Sort of an addendum, something I just thought of that I should add in here. You know, I get a lot of questions, especially from that video where the engine was running all the, or the cooling fan for the engine was running all the time. I get all sorts of questions on that video and other ones. You know, I've got this, this, and this wrong with my car. How do I fix it? Or like, what's the problem? And the truth is, from where I am, with the limited amount of stuff that you tell me, there's no way I can diagnose the problem. Yeah, sometimes there's an obvious thing that, you know, it's wrong with these cars that I've either experienced or maybe read about, and I can sort of direct you in the right way. But, you know, giving me, you know, a couple little things and saying, you know, diagnose the problem with my car, that's like impossible for me to do without any nuance, without any details. When I have to deal with this in the electronics, my electronics repair business all the time, that in order to do proper diagnostics, you have to have some sort of clues to lead you in the right direction. And, you know, when you're writing in and you have electrical problems and you either don't have a multimeter or don't know how to just, you know, measure voltages somewhere, there's not a whole lot I can do to help you, unfortunately. You have to have a good system for narrowing things down to a specific point and being able to go from there. So, you know, I appreciate people watching and being engaged, and I'm really glad that some of this stuff has helped some of you out. But, you know, I can't endlessly answer questions that aren't possible to answer without any further detail, or without you being able to at least do some preliminary diagnostic work. Alright, so that's going to be it. I hope you found this helpful. Again, thank you everybody for supporting the channel, and I'm so glad that some of this information out there has helped you guys. I don't know if it'll be another year again before I post a video, or if there will never be another video. It's really hard for me to say. Like I say, I don't think this channel is going to be anywhere near a full-time thing for me. I don't think I want it to be. So, yeah, that was an update on yearly costs for maintenance. And like I say, we're well under the $1,000 per year mark, Canadian dollars, for maintaining this vehicle. So we're well below the threshold of what it should cost. So we'll check you next time, and I hope everybody stays well out there.